All right, shalom, shalom. Just give me 1 second. All right, cool, cool. All right, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into Second Esdras, the 13th chapter. I meant to go into this one yesterday, but the Spirit had it to where I went into 14 instead. So, Lord willing, today we're going to Second Esdras 13, and Lord willing to be edifying. So, this is Second Esdras chapter 13, verse 1, and this is mainly a prophecy of Yahushai's return. All right, coming with the chariots and all of that stuff. So let's go into it. Now it does speak on different timelines as well, but as we go through, we'll cover that. So this is Second Esdras chapter 13 verse 1. And it came to pass after 7 days I dreamed a dream by night. Because when you read Slakia, when you read at the end of Second Esdras chapter 12, the angel basically told the angel Uriel told Ezra, let's see, it says, but I remained still in the field 7 days, as the angel commanded me, and did eat only in those days of the flowers of the field, and had my meat of the herbs. So this was after the angel Uriel had come down and broken down the vision Ezra got in Second Esdras 11 to him, and then told him to go and wait 7 days, in the field and to eat the herbs and so on. So that's why he says, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen unto him. So now this man that waxed strong with the thousands of heaven is Yahushua, all right, the Messiah. And the thousands of heaven are the angels. Okay, this is in Revelation 19. It talks about Yahushua coming on a white horse, and there were other angels pretty much that came on white horses as well. And then also in let's get that real quick. Here in the book of Psalms, I believe it's Psalms 68 and 17. So it says, the chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place. So the angels that are in the heavens are a whole lot. So when Yahushua comes back, he's coming with thousands of angels. Okay, it's going to be an army, the heavenly host. Okay, so as it says, and when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen unto him. Yeah, because he came in a chariot which is above. So when the world sees his chariot, everybody's gonna look up, and when they look up and see his chariot, they're gonna be afraid. It says, and pretty much wherever his chariot would be directed to, everybody would be shook. When you read in the book of Ezekiel, I forget exactly if it was the first chapter or the 10th chapter, but it's in the one of those chapters. It tells you about the angels and how they interact with the chariots. Pretty much how the chariots don't really have like steering wheels. It's where the spirit of the angel wanted to go that's where the chariot will go. And that reminds me of the movie Avatar, with the blue people, and how they could connect the end of their hair, right, their braid, to attach it to the creature, right, whether it's like a mammal looking creature or a flying creature, a bird. They could attach it to like a piece of that creature, and then it would sort of like connect them to where they would be in sync. So wherever the the so that basically the rider could ride it and control it. So it says here, verse 4, and whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth feeleth when it feeleth the fire. So it goes to show you the voice is not necessarily literal, but is going into the lasers that were coming from his chariot, because Yahweh Shai is going to, of course, give commands, but in the physical manifestation will be lasers coming out from the chariots, burning people and places and things, as well as the missiles, right? So as the missiles are hitting, the lasers from the chariots are also going to be burning, right? As it says, all they burned that heard his voice. So anywhere that was hit by the lasers burned, and it likened that what was happening to how the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire, because that's going to be fire coming out of those chariots, and it's going to destroy everything. When the earth fails, that means that if whatever life there is lifeless now. All right, if you fail at life, that means what? You're dead. It says, and after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Now, what we're reading right now is what Ezra saw in his vision. He said he saw the man coming with the thousands of heaven, and everybody that was under him, wherever his countenance looked, they trembled. And then he saw basically all they that heard his voice, wherever all them that were hit by the lasers pretty much died, just like how when there's a fire, whatever's in its path gets burned up. And then he continues to go on. Okay, after this, right after I saw this, lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. So what Ezra saw, the multitude out of number, is dealing with the armies of these other nations. All right. Revelation, the 12th chapter, I believe, and the 7th or the 9th verse, it talks about there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels. So in essence, this is also a part of that time, because you're going to have these nations that are going to stop fighting each other, because Yahushua is going to come during World War III. So these nations are going to stop. World War III is going to be between these nations. You can already see Russia and the tensions between U.S., Israel, and Iran, and Russia and China, and the UK and Ukraine and all of that. So there's going to be war going on. There's going to be war going on. And when when Yahushua comes back and they see him, and I'm pretty sure that by that time they would have established some it's likely that they would have already conditioned people to an extent as to a possible, as a possible threat, a possibility of like an outside, we've been seeing these UFOs, and it's likely that they might try to, that kind of thing. So when Yahweh Shai comes back, they're going to stop fighting each other. They're going to join together, and they're going to try to fight against the Lord to try and take him and the angels out. But that's why it says out of number from the four winds to subdue the man that came out of the sea, which Yahweh Shai didn't come. He's not going to come out of the actual ocean, as in the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean, but he came from the heavens. Okay, when you read in the book of Genesis, it tells you how you had earth, you had waters above and below, and you had the firmament that separated the waters from the waters. Okay, so ultimately, Yahushua didn't come from. He's not going to come out of the ocean from the bottom, but he's going to come from the heavens. He's going to come from a different dimension, All right, the fourth dimension. It says, and I beheld, and lo, he graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. So Ezra saw, and the mountain represents Yahushua's chariot. And Ezra saw Yahushua fly up upon his chariot. All right. It says, but I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. Now, when something is graven, it's basically like carved out, right? Let's put the graven definition. It says, engrave on the surface, marble graved with exquisite. No, you're not giving me good definitions. All right, let's look it up on the online etymology. Oh, it's like here. Online. All right, let's look up the word graven. Let's see what we can get from here. All right, so as you can see, graven, sculpted, carved, right? So right, you have to engrave. It says to dig up, right? Chisel, carve. So imagine taking out a giant piece from a mountain. You carve out that mountain. You take out a big chunk out of it, right? So Ezra is saying here, I beheld, and lo, he graved himself a great mountain, which was referring unto his chariot, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. So when you want to see the region, you want to see, okay, well, where the ends of this big piece that has to be taken out of somewhere, where's the ends of it? You know, where's the part that was cut out? But he couldn't. So in essence, what he was looking for, he's looking around to see if he could see the ends of the chariot, but he couldn't, because that's how big Yahushua's chariot was or is. It says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. Yeah, because they're going to look up and they're going to see this massive chariot, right? And they're going to see the lasers that have been coming out. They're going to hear the sound that it's going to be making, and they're going to be afraid, because this is unlike anything they've ever seen before. And yet there's fight, because the Lord is going to put the spirit on them to have that mindset that we gotta stand up and fight against them, and we're humanity's last hope, yada yada yada. And ultimately, even if they wanted to turn back, the Most High ain't gonna let them. So it says here, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. So as they came, you know, they hopped into their fighter jets, their planes, they aligned their missile silos and their laser beams, whatever they got pointed at him, getting ready to, you know, to shoot and all of that. Yahushua didn't, you know, like imagine if you are gonna fight somebody, right? You take a stance, right? They get into their stance, you get into your stance, so that you know you're ready, you can defend, you can attack, all of that. But in essence, for lack of a better word, Yahushua didn't need to take a stance, right? It says he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. Now the fire, the flaming breath, and the tempest are not going to come out of Yahushua's literal mouth, but it's going to come out of his chariot. Okay, it says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight. So now you have the ingredients of the laser beam, right? Concentrated heat with all these ingredients mixed in, and then, you know, it just came down, you know, with force upon the multitude, and guess what? And burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So he'll see like a large number of troops and all that you can't even number. And then a laser beam comes down and eviscerates all of them. And after that laser beam, is done, there's nothing there. It's just dust and smoke. So just like that, pew, they're gone. And when you read in the book of Habakkuk, it also tells you about that. I think it's Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter. Let's pull that up real quick. All right. Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 3. It says, God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Selah. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. And his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. And when you go into the word horns, which I'm sure we're already familiar with, but it's always good to go into it again. The word there is Quran. All right. And as you can see, you'll see horn, horn of strength, flask, and then it says horn of horn-like projections on the altar, because the altar had 4 horns on the 4 corners of it. That was its design. But you have here F of rays of light. All right, of rays of light. And when you read in the book of Exodus, it tells you how when Moses came down from the mountain, his face shone, meaning that there was a light, right? A rays of light coming from his face, all right, because of how much wisdom and him being in the presence of the Lord. That's what happened. And the word there for shone is Quran, which is that rays of light. Okay. Now the rays of light that are gonna, because fire is also light. So the rays of light that are gonna come from his hand here in Habakkuk, is the hand is referring onto his chariot. All right, just like in 2nd Esdras, it says it came out of his mouth, but that's also referring onto his chariot. All right, so there's a precept for this, which is Habakkuk the 3rd chapter, which also goes into the lasers coming from the chariots. So as Ezra saw, the multitude came to try and subdue the Lord. They got hit with a beam. They got eviscerated. Verse 12. Afterward, right after this had happened, saw I the same man come down from the mountain, and called unto him another peaceable multitude. Now this another peaceable multitude is referring on to Israelites. Okay, Israelites. Now, as we keep on reading, you'll see, remember, right now, Ezra is still going through his vision. He's explaining to us, this is the vision that I got. And then from a couple verses on down, you'll hear the angel tell him, this is the interpretation of the vision that you got. This is what it means. And so as the angel is breaking it down and interpreting it, he's going to explain what does it mean by the man wax, strong with the thousands of heaven. What does it mean that the innumerable multitude came? What does it mean about this other peaceable multitude? So the angel is going to explain all of this. All right. So when we get to, I think, around the 39th verse, that's when the angel starts to explain what is this peaceable multitude. So right now, we're just going to keep on going. Like I said, the peaceable multitude is referring on to Israelites, both northern kingdom and southern kingdom. It says, verse 13, and there came much people unto him. Now, this much people unto him is a different multitude of people. And in this multitude of people, it's not this. You may think, okay, he called unto him another peaceable multitude. And then after he called the peaceable multitude, there came much people unto him, which were those peaceable multitude. No, it's two separate. It's separate. Verse 12, the peaceable multitude here are Israelites. In verse 13, the much that came onto him were involved Israelites and heathens, elect and 2/3. And you're going to see why. So it says, and there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, which are the elect, some were sorry, which were those that weren't of the elect, and some of them were bound, which were what? The heathens, starting with the elites, okay? Because we're gonna find them and bind them up, okay? That's prophecy. It says, and other some brought of them that were offered. Then was I sick through great fear, and I awaked and said. Now, the other some that were brought of them that were offered is talking about Israelites. but the Israelites that are in these other nations that are going to be brought by these other nations. Okay, and a precept for that, a couple of precepts actually, is the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 9. Now you can see at the top it says a glorified Zion, right? So Isaiah 60 is pretty much going into when the Lord basically turns away our captivity. Okay. Now verse 9 says, surely the isles, which is islands, right? When you go into the word isles, let's see if that's the context is being used. All right, see, coast, island, shore, region. So it says here, verse 9, surely the isles shall wait. Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of the Lord Yahweh thy God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. See, so as it says, to what? To bring thy sons from far. Who are those? Those are Israelites. Now, another precept is in the book of Isaiah 66 and 20. It says, and they shall bring, who? The other nations shall bring all your brethren, Israelites, for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations upon horses, and in chariots, and in litters, and upon mules, and upon swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, saith the Lord, as the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel into the house of the Lord Yahweh. All right. And the elder apostle Ramlab went into when he brought out this precept, basically Israel is going to be brought, but in a glory, like in a in a royal state, no, not in rags, but in riches. And also remember, there's a scripture that says, those mine enemies that I should reign over them, bring them hither and slay them before me. So what does that mean? That means that you're going to have certain of those that are going to be enemies of the Lord, certain rebels that are going to need to be purged out. Okay? Because the great deliverance and the great destruction will happen here in Babylon. Other parts of the world will be hit, but you're going to have Israelites that are in other parts that are also going to be wicked, and then some that are also going to be righteous. Okay? So there are going to be rebels that are going to need to be purged, and they're going to be some that aren't going to want to bow down to the Lord, and they're going to need to be brought before him and slain. Okay? So at the Lord's return in 2nd Esdras 13, you're going to have a different variety, right? Groups of people in different conditions at his return. So reading it again, you're going to have some, 2nd Esdras 13 and 13, whereof some were glad, the elect, some were sorry, the non-elect, some of them were bound, right? The Edomites and these heathens, their elites, their kings, all right? It says, and other some brought of them that were offered, Israelites, that were brought, like we just read in Isaiah 60 and Isaiah 66. Then was I sick through great fear, and I awaked and said, see? So the first 13 verses were the vision that that Ezra was seeing of Yahushua's return, of the war, right? How these other nations are going to come and try to fight against them, and what he's going to do when he returns, and then what's going to happen after that. And then he woke up. So verse 14 says, so when he woke up, he said, thou hast shewed thy servant these wonders from the beginning, and hast counted me worthy that thou shouldest receive my prayer. Show me now yet the interpretation of this dream. For as I conceive in mine understanding, woe unto them. So he's saying, okay, let me know what the breakdown of this dream is, because what I understand from it is that woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. Now he starts to speak about those that are left behind and those that are not left behind. And when we started, I mentioned that 2nd Esdras 13 does speak about like different times as well. Now, the woe unto them that shall be left in those days. Those that were left is dealing with the elect. Those that were not left are dealing with those that are not of the elect. Okay. And when it says in those days in verse 16 is referring to the time when Yahushua was on the scene. All right, the time period around 70 AD and all of that. That's why he said, woe unto them, because they were going to have to go through and deal with what the Romans were going to come and do. But much more woe unto them that are not left behind. Why? Because they were going to suffer that, and they were going to suffer now in this time in Jacob's trouble, because they're not of the elect. It says, for they that were not left were in heaviness. Yeah, for the reasons I just mentioned. It says, now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days. And when did the latter days start? The latter days, or in other words, the last days, started 2,000 years ago from us, right? Around the time of Yahushua. It says, now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them and to those that are left behind. Yeah, because they're going to have to go through 70 AD and everything else after, and also this time of Jacob's trouble that everybody's going to have to basically go through. It says, therefore are they come into great perils and many necessities, like as these dreams declare. Because when you read in the previous chapters of Second Esdras, he received different dreams and different visions. He received dreams and visions about the Roman Empire, okay? And remember that he mentioned in Second Esdras 11 how during the time of the last three feathers, right, which are Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian, that when Vespasian came up, he ruled with great oppression, all right? And that they basically hurt the peaceable and all of that. So that was a part of the great perils and necessities that both those that were left behind and those that weren't left behind had to go through in those days. Okay, and then even more in the time of Jacob's trouble, because when you read, I think it's Second Esdras the 7th chapter, it tells you how then shall no man be able to save him that is basically set for destruction, or to hinder him that is set to be saved. So it says, verse 20, yet yet is it easier for him that is in danger to come into these things than to pass away as a cloud out of the world, and not to see the things that happen in the last days. And he answered unto me and said, now it's the way it's written when it says, yet is it easier for him that is in danger to come into these things. What it's really saying is, even though there's going to be chaos and all of that, it's still better for you. Even though it's going to be dangerous, it's still better for you to live in those times than for you to just pass away as a cloud out of the world and not get to see the things that are going to happen in the last days. So even though it's dangerous, it would still be better, right, in Ezra's opinion, for you to be alive in the last days to see the things that are going to go on than for you to just pass away as a cloud, all right, out of this world. And he answered unto me and said, the interpretation of the vision shall I shew thee. So what has happened so far? Yeah, Khan, this is the one, the water. GMS, truth be told, 144, Second Esdras 745. Then shall no man be able to save him that is destroyed, nor to oppress him that hath gotten the victory. That's the one, the water. So far, what has happened? So far, Ezra told us the dream that he had, and then he spoke and said, this is what I basically got from that dream, right? That Salakia, that this is what's going to happen. These are the perils, but it's still going to be better for you to be alive in those days than to just miss it all, and so on. And then verse 21, the angel now says, all right, now I'm going to give you what the breakdown of the dream. So imagine if you slept, you had a dream, you woke up, and you said, damn, this is the dream that I had, and this is what I think it means. And then an angel comes and says, all right, now I'm going to tell you what it really means. So verse 21, it says, the interpretation of the vision shall I shew thee, and will open unto thee the thing that thou hast required. Whereas thou sawest, or whereas thou hast spoken of them that are left behind, this is the interpretation, right? So you mentioned those that were left behind. This is what it means. He that shall endure the peril in in that time hath kept himself. So in what time is it? It's talking about the time of 70 AD as well as this time of Jacob's trouble. All right. And he that shall endure the peril is dealing with the elect. It says, they that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith toward the Almighty. And they are those that were left behind. Okay. It says, know this therefore, that they which be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. Why? Because they that be left behind are those that endure the peril and have kept themselves and have works and faith towards the Almighty. Verse 25. This is the meaning of the vision. Now, everything from verse 1 to verse 13, the angel is going to explain. Whereas thou sawest a man coming up from the midst of the sea, the same is he whom the power, the pious, hath kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. So the man you saw coming up with the thousands of heaven, he is the same that the Most High hath kept a great season, which is when you go from the time Yahushua went back to the spirit world up until now, he's been patiently waiting at the right hand of the Father until he gets the go ahead. So he has been kept a great season, but when he gets the go ahead, he's gonna come back, right? Which by his own self shall deliver his creature, because that's what he's gonna come to do. He's gonna come to destroy this man's kingdom and to deliver his elect. It says, and he shall order them that are left behind. And those that are left behind, being the elect, are going to be ordered, right? He's going to deliver us. He's going to change our bodies. He's going to set up the proper order on the earth, okay? It says, and whereas thou sawest that out of his mouth there came as a blast of wind and fire and storm, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him. This is the interpretation. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And when is that time going to be? That's the time we're living in now. The times when Yahushua is going to, or Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is going to begin to deliver them that dwell upon the earth, is the times right that we're in right now. Daniel 12 and 1, Jeremiah 30 and 7. What do both of them have in common? There's going to be a time like never before, but the elect are going to be delivered out of it, right? So it says, and he shall come. Who is that? Yahushua. He's going to come. He's going to return to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, because they're not going to be expecting it. And that's why in Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter, it says that they shall be amazed by the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they looked for. So that's why they're going to be astonished. They're going to be surprised and afraid and shook, because people, the average individual on the earth, is not preparing for the return of the Lord in the way that he's going to return. So when he does return, they're going to be astonished. It says, and one shall undertake to fight against another, which is talking about these different nations: U.S., Israel, China, Russia, Iran. It says, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. So you're gonna have civil wars, you're gonna have race wars, you're gonna have different sides. 2nd Esdras 15, okay, and then you're gonna have, as it says, one realm against another, which ultimately you're gonna have the heavenly realm with the Yahushua and the angels against this realm, against the dragon and his angels, all right, which is Esau and these other nations and their technology and their weapons. It says, and the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I shewed thee before. And then shall my son be declared. So hold on a second. This is a prophecy of Yahushai in the Old Testament. Because who is the son of the Lord? Yahushai. It says, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. Yeah. When they see Yahushai make his return, they're going to stop fighting against each other. I forgot which president it was that said it, that if there was basically there was like some extraterrestrial threat to humanity, would we not all put our differences aside and come together to, to fight against it? So that's what's going to happen here, right? It says, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another, and an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together. How? They're going to say, yo, why are we fighting against each other? Let's stop. We have a common enemy. Let's join our forces and let's go and try to stop him, or stop that extraterrestrial threat. Khan, I believe it might have been Reagan. So it says here, as thou sawest them willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. So they're going to join their forces. They're going to join their military might. They're going to join all their technology together to try to fight against the Lord. It says, but he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Sion, and Sion shall come and shall be shewed to all men, being prepared and builded, like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. Yeah, and the scriptures tell you that the Lord is going, Amos 9:11, Zechariah 12:8, okay? And that Sion is going to start with the elect, who are going to be beamed up and have, Lord willing, we be a part of that, have our bodies changed, okay? It says here, and shall be shewed to all men, because everybody's going to witness that, okay? Being prepared and builded. And that's why John said what? He saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven, right? As a bride adorned for her husband. It says, like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands, which is Yahushai's chariot. Because pursuant to Revelation 11, the elect are going to get beamed up and received in a cloud, which is going to, it has to be Yahushai's cloud or Yahushai's chariot, seeing that that's going to be the biggest chariot. So it says, and this my son shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations. And now when it says he's going to rebuke their wicked inventions, doesn't mean that he's going to come. Yeah, Yahushua is going to come. He's going to sit all of them down and he's going to start calling for precepts and start cursing them out. No, he's going to destroy them. It says, it is a rebuke that's not calmly. Well, this is, it says here, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, which is going to be a part of the destruction. It says, and shall lay before them their evil thoughts and the torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame. Because how are they going to be destroyed? With fire. And he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto me. Yeah, because the way the Lord is going to judge them is going to be righteous. And that's why the scriptures say that he doth judge, and in righteousness doth he make war. He makes war in righteousness, right? Roughly paraphrasing, but there's a scripture that says that. It says, and whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him. See, so as the angel is going through the vision that Ezra had, he deals with, okay, the man coming up with the thousands of heaven. He deals with the multitudes gathering up to fight against them. And then he's dealing now with what Ezra saw, verse 39, and whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, remember, being the Israelites, it says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea. Hosea is talking about Hoshea, the king, right? When you read in the book of Kings, you'll read that account of it. The Assyrians came and basically besieged the northern kingdom and then deported them out of the land and imported heathens into the land, right? It says, whom Shalmaneser, or Shalmaneser the fifth, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land, which was in the region of Assyria. It says here, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, because they were around that area. Let's put here Assyria. I believe it says some of the areas was like the river Gozan, or something like that. But let's see. Hopefully this will be a little clearer. Okay, that's not too clear. Okay, we can use this. Here you go. So here we are in Israel, and we get deported. We have to clearly cross the Euphrates, and they settled. They had a lot of Israelites around, like this area, this region, right? This Ashur, Assyria. That's how when you read the book of Tobit, he was around this area, right? Where he sent Tobias, his son, to go and receive the money and all of that, right? I believe that some of the areas mentioned were, you had Nineveh, you had Ecbatane, right, which is all around this area. So pretty much they were also, as it says here, they took counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, because that's where they were. They were in the midst of the heathen, all right, in the east. It says, and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So the 10 tribes, now not every single one of them, but the majority of them said, you know what, we just gonna leave out of here. So when the Assyrian Empire went down, when it was taken down by the Babylonians and the Medes, that gave opportunity for the 10 tribes which are around there to be out. All right, to go into a further country where never mankind dwelt, which is talking about here, the west part. And how did they know about it? Well, King Solomon used to send, I believe it was Hiram, and a few others to to this side to come and get certain resources. So it says here that they might there in the Americas keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. So if we take a look back here, you can see now it doesn't show the whole piece, but you can see if they entered in the Euphrates, eventually it all comes through the Persian Gulf, which is a body of water. But I can't, it's not really pulling up the end of it here. But nevertheless, the path that they took, if we can get a world map on here. All right. In a nutshell, when they came out from the region where they were at, and they got in through here, as we're going to read, it says, by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Arsareth. So from this region where they are, if they enter through the Euphrates, which will lead down into here, where would they travel to that would take them a year and a half? Because where did they end up? They ended up over here in the west. So they had to have gone over here and came through. The smartest way to go, or really the only other way to go, would be to come round the Horn of Africa and then to make their way over to the west. Okay. And so that's why it says the Most High held the flood so that they could have the safe passage and make it over here, because it was in the will of the Lord that they would make it over here. Now, as it says here, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. The word Arsareth means another land. In the Hebrew is Asherah Aratiza. All right, I believe it's Asherah, Asherah for another, or different, or other, and Aratiza is land. So it says, and which is America, or the Americas. It says, then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. So now there's a different day over here. The 10 tribes dwell over here until the latter time, and now the latter time, when the day here is talking about the rest of the tribes, shall begin to come. So when the rest of the tribes, when it was time for them to be brought over also to another land or to the Americas, right? The highest shall stay the springs of the stream again. So the Most High basically halted the waters to give the southern kingdom a safe passage here to the Americas as we were being brought over here. Why? Because according to prophecy, both the southern Judah and Israel were oppressed together. So both of us, both the northern and southern kingdom, had to make it here to this land to fulfill prophecy. It says here, so in verse 46, there's two different days that both make up that peaceable multitude. The northern kingdom, which came here to the Americas and dwelt here until the latter time, when the southern kingdom were going to start to be brought over here in bulk. The Most High allowed that to happen by staying the springs again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace, because the Lord allowed them to because it was a multitude, but the Lord allowed them to get here in peace. It says, but those, now when I say peace, I don't mean that they had a good time. I mean that the Lord made it possible for them to come to make it here. It says, but those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders, right? Which was the elect during the time of Yahushua, all right? The borders being in Israel. It says, now when he destroyeth the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain. Yeah, so when Yahushua comes back and he destroys the multitude of the nations, he destroys the beast and the false prophet and all of that. He's gonna what? Defend his people that remain, which are the elect. And then shall he shew them great wonders. He's gonna give us new bodies. He's gonna open up our minds to understand and comprehend different things. It says, then said I, O Lord, that bearest rule, shew me this. Wherefore have I seen the man coming up from the midst of the sea? And he says, so Ezra wanted to know more about basically where Yahushua came from, how he came from, like details about that. It says, and he said unto me, like as thou canst neither seek out nor know the things that are in the deep of the sea, even so can no man upon earth see my son or those that be with him, but in the daytime. Meaning, the Ezra he got a vision of it, right, of what was going on, but he wasn't going to get details of when and the exact details of it until Yahushua comes back. But in the daytime is when Yahushua returns. Okay, because right now we in Esau's night, but when Yahushua comes, the daytime, that's when everybody's going to see him and everybody's going to, witness what he's going to do. It says, this is the interpretation of the dream which thou sawest, and whereby thou only art here lightened, right? You're the one that this dream was given to, and I just gave you the interpretation. So you've been enlightened. It says, for thou hast forsaken thine own way and applied thy diligence unto my law and sought it. Thy life thou hast ordered in wisdom and hast called understanding thy mother. And therefore have I shewed thee the treasures of the highest. After other 3 days I will speak other things unto thee, and declare unto thee mighty and wondrous things. Then went I forth into the field, giving praise and thanks greatly unto the Most High, because of his wonders which he did in time, and because he governeth the same, and such things as fall in their seasons. And there I sat 3 days. So that was, after he got the vision, he got the breakdown of it. He was, he sat there 3 days. He was rejoicing. He was pondering upon it, and then that's what leads into Second Esdras, the 14th chapter. All right. So that was pretty much it for Second Esdras, the 13th chapter. This is a prophecy that it hasn't been fulfilled yet, but it's going to be fulfilled after the 15th and 16th chapters. All right. So that was pretty much it. Water for the precepts. Lord willing, that was edifying unto the elect. And in closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.